Hello, my name is Michael Andreri. I am a founder of SunDrum Solar. We are the world leader in hybrid solar solutions. I want to invite you to view this video where we're going to introduce one of our newest technologies, where we're able to garner energy from the sun even in low light or no light conditions. SunDrum Solar's mission has been to dramatically improve solar economics with cost-effective hybrid assemblies and systems. One of the struggles that solar systems have is their operation only occurs when the sun's out. Okay? They really haven't tapped into that latent energy that the sun stores in the atmosphere. And the problem that creates is you put an investment on the roof that is only giving you a return for 4, 5, or 6 hours a day. If you're able to expand that to 24 hours a day, you dramatically improve the amount of energy that you can supply the customer and thus the savings. So we look at using efficiency, time to maximize the amount of energy that can be delivered per square foot, and we are the leader in that market. And a side note, every picture that you see here is of an actual SunDrum solar installation that has occurred somewhere in the world. SunDrum solar advantages. So if you look at a bare PV panel, it's actually very good at converting the sun's energy. It converts close to 90% of the sun's energy. In this example, there's a PV panel. It's putting out about 195 watts of electrical power. It's actually losing a lot of the energy that is created in the form of heat back to the atmosphere. By placing our device underneath a commercially available PV panel, we're able to extract that heat, change it to the thermal transfer fluid that we're passing through our collector, gain about 435 watts of thermal power, and in doing that, we've cooled the PV panel where you get additional electricity. So you're getting a total of 645 watts, where before you gained 195. Basically, when you have the thermal load and you apply a SunDrum solar collector, you get an increase in your electrical power. You get a significant amount of thermal power that you can use, netting about 3x power improvement over if you just use the bare PV panel. Picture says 1,000 words. PV panel right on the left is a SunDrum solar module, and you can see that the cooling directly affects the silicon cell. Basically, the bucket behind is about 70 degrees, and we're keeping the front surface of the silicon junction to about an 80-degree temperature. Significant improvement over the bare PV panel on the right, which is up around 130 degrees. Microinverters are fantastic. This is an actual installation that's on a roof with 6 SunDrum cooled panels right next to 6 panels that are bare, and you can see that we're providing a 4.4% improvement in total power output of the SunDrum cooled panels. We've been doing residential installations since 2008, and you can see we have markets all across the country, from Hawaii all the way to Vermont. We've been doing commercial installations since 2011 with some very premier customers that are listed here. All of these customers are very happy and satisfied with the systems that we provided. Last year, we established the world record in solar efficiency. This is a 2-family home in Somerville, Mass, where in addition to heating potable water, we're also providing space heating. And in May of 2013, in the peak hour, that peak hour was from 2 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we lost about 4% of it in thermal losses on the way down, for a net thermal delivery of 71% consumed by the house. And of the 16% electricity that was captured up on the roof, we lost about 1% in the inverter for 15% to be consumed by the house. So the 86% isn't what was collected on the roof, it was actually what was delivered to the home. And on the right, you can see both a daily swipe of the energy that was delivered during the day, and also a comparative pie chart as to what a bare PV panel. Now, when we looked at this, we were all excited. We established a world record that no one else has attained. But we also looked at it and says, so how long can we do that? So that's a peak hour. An hour's great, all right? There's 24 hours in a day, you know. And then there are other conditions where if the sun wasn't out, we would be nowhere near that. How can we improve that? And you can see the amount of time, which this day I think was about 6 hours, that we were able to run, and then we shut off. How can we solve that to improve the amount of energy that's being delivered to the home? So what we did is we went and looked at what is the profile of energy that we're collecting. And the SunDrum solar collector, predominantly because the PV panel manufacturers don't want us to heat the panel, we basically directly interact with the atmosphere. Therefore, in stagnation, we do not exceed temperatures greater than a bare PV panel. And that's the reason why I think we're up to close to 20 different commercially available PV panel manufacturers allow us to attach, because we're not going to negatively affect it by overheating their panel. But that also means that we have to operate relatively close to ambient. That also means we directly interact with the ambient, and we can collect energy that is in the latent air. What I mean by that, or what I mean by passive solar energy, is if there was no energy in the air, then that air would be minus 477 degrees Fahrenheit and we'd all be dead. The energy that's in the air is there by the sun, you know, and relative to absolute zero, it is a tremendous amount of energy. And the relative change from 30 degrees to 50 degrees in that total percent of air energy is minor. The overall issue is, at 30 degrees, how usable is that 30 degrees? Now in this chart, what you'll see is, you know, we're kind of highlighting the comfort zones. The red lines are for each individual day, what is the ambient temperature, the outside air, how did that swing? And then what was the collector temperature, how did that swing? And you'll see that, you know, during the day we get a lot hotter than the ambient temperature conditions. This is a loaded system, so it's operating, fluids passing through it. In stagnation, we'd actually be hotter than here. But at night, we get colder. So we not only benefit from the active solar radiation heating us up during the day with direct sunlight, but at night, we can dissipate that energy as easily. Or a level of the capability that really will be a conversation for a future video is, because we're facing space, we have spatial radiation and we actually get colder than the outside air. So we get colder than the ambient temperature, and we're currently working on solutions where that will help us to provide air conditioning solutions to our customers in the future. This video is really going to more focus on the thermal aspects. We'll talk a little bit, but really a future video will share, or release will share, the air conditioning applications that we're currently having developed. So with the knowledge that we're very good at collecting active energy from the sun, and the realization that we're very good at collecting the latent energy that's been stored in the atmosphere, or what I can call passive energy, along with Capital Sun Group, Net Zero Meter, New Grid Energy Solutions, and a very knowledgeable customer who is also very supportive in a high degree of monitoring, we designed our first system that would be for space heating and space cooling, domestic hot water being the afterthought. The system is a 71 kilowatt hybrid array. 45 kW of that is thermal, 26 kW of that is electric. And the thermal portion, it is the only source of energy feeding a 6-ton water heat pump. Now, a heat pump thermally is the same thing that a transformer is electrically. An electrical transformer, you put electrical energy in on one side, and then on the other side, you can step up the voltage of that energy or step down the voltage of that energy. The energy always coming out is slightly less than the energy coming in due to efficiency losses. With a heat pump, you can put your thermal energy into the heat pump, and with a little bit of electricity, you can step up the temperature of that energy or step down the temperature of that energy. So with a heat pump, if you deliver to it 30, 40, 50 degrees, you can step the temperature of that energy up to 80, 100, 120, 140 if you so desire. This system was designed for a 8,000 square foot home. Again, predominantly it was for space heating and space cooling, with the goal of being able to bring this home to close to zero energy, or a net zero house, where over the year it produces all the energy that it uses over that year. And we look forward to that possibly being a first for an 8,000 square foot home. The system that was implemented here is a dual heat pump system. Basically, there's the solar collectors that are on the roof that are underneath the PV modules. There are more PV panels up there than there are hybrid modules. The energy from the roof, let's say it was coming down at 50 degrees, we would feed it into the heat pump. The heat pump would boost it up to 110 degrees, or whatever relative that's in the storage tank. And we would heat up that storage tank. And then when a zone in the house was requesting, the heat pump on the load side would extract that thermal energy and deliver it to the individual zone of the house. This home has 5 zones. In the summer, this will operate in reverse, where it will extract the thermal energy from the room and the air, deposit it in the tank, and then in the evening, we will dissipate that energy to the sky, just like a cooling tower, except at much lower energy and water costs than a cooling tower operates. So how'd the system work? So on January 15th, we were able to gather some data on the system. During its peak period, it was operating at a COP of 5.3. The day itself was one of those cold, wintry days. There was only about 500 watts per meter square solar radiation. It was the conditions where solar thermal systems usually have their most difficulty. Cold, partial sunlight. And what we did is we compared it to a system that we have in Norwalk, Connecticut. It's a larger system, it has 96 collectors. And for that day period, it delivered 32.5 kilowatt hours of thermal energy. While the SunDrum Harvest system, even though it's smaller, it delivered 125.6 kilowatt hours of thermal energy. And when you normalize for system area, that's over 4 times the amount of thermal energy that the Harvest technology provides as an advantage over traditional solar thermal systems. To highlight the capability of the system, the evening before, we took a snapshot on the 14th of January at night. And at night, at this point, we were running at a COP of 3.5. We were basically pulling water down off the roof at 35.6 degrees, setting it back up at 28. And basically the heat pump was heating that water, was transforming that energy to 107 degree water with a return of 95 degrees. On February 22nd, we had improved our data collection capability, and we're able to start to put together rolling shots of actual performance, real-time data. And this customer has a natural gas backup. So we disabled the HarvestHP system for the morning, and the green spikes that you see is actually the natural gas boiler turning on, heating up that tank to be later delivered into the house. The red line that you see is the load of the house, the different zones of the house actually requesting thermal energy and it being delivered to that zone. The yellow line is the available sunlight. The blue line or the blue swipe is the amount of electrical energy coming off the PV panels. The orange line that you see after the HarvestHP was enabled is the amount of thermal energy coming off the roof. Okay. And underneath the red line, kind of hard to see, there's a purple line. That's the amount of electricity that's going into the heat pump. The amount of thermal energy coming out the heat pump is actually that purple line plus the orange line minus some efficiency losses, which really are relatively small compared. And the thing that delighted me with this chart is not only the COPs that we were delivering in February, which, you know, at 2 o'clock is probably in the 6 range, but at 6 o'clock at night, when the PV system has stopped operating, we're delivering a COP of pretty close to 4, 3.5. And the ability of a system to be able to continue to collect the solar energy that's been stored in the atmosphere does great things to solve some of the main problems solar thermal systems have had. You know, you've got to put in enough storage to actually hold enough water that's going to be consumed for the entire day of the facility, which sometimes can be very difficult to do, if not impossible. The fact that on cloudy days or rainy days you're not able to collect anything and be completely reliant upon an auxiliary system, that problem's also solved. How the system runs in real life is on demand. It's much more like a boiler than a dependent solar system. It's now an on-demand solar system. And SunDrum Solar is happy to present to you the availability for you to start implementing on-demand solar systems. On this graph, you can see that it's only periodically that the thermal portion is pulling energy off the roof. That's because when we heat up the storage tank to 95 degrees, we basically satisfied the amount of storage we want to keep in that storage tank, and our controls tell us to shut off. Then when that energy is extracted out of the storage tank and it's at the set point where it requests us to put energy back in, we turn back on. This way here, we're only collecting and delivering energy when there is a need. It's no longer a conversation of use it or lose it. When you want it, you get it. When you don't need it, you get the electricity fully for use by the facility. And again, even at 6:30 at night, 7, when the sun's gone, if there's a demand, we're still supplying. At 3 a.m. in the morning, where there's definitely no sunlight, we're still supplying. There are more ways to use this capability than just a system that's designed for space heating and space cooling. There's a tremendous amount of domestic hot water requirements. When I think about hotels, laundries, many applications have a huge load that they have for heating. This is now a system that can meet that load with lower storage requirements and higher energy out than any other system available in the market. The HarvestHP domestic hot water system is just showing one application that we can use for domestic hot water only market. Slide 18 is, this is a way where, you know, a HarvestHP system is able to provide heating or positive thermal energy 24 hours. It's really only able to supply cooling when the amount of active solar radiation dies down to where we can operate with successful COPs for cooling. Again, much more conversation for a future video. We do have the controls where we can design or program really when the HarvestHP will kick in and what the minimum COP or coefficient of performance would be to provide the best financial return to the customer. SunDrum Solar HarvestHP advantages is that we're on demand. By accessing both the active solar energy when there's sunlight and the passive solar energy or latent solar energy that it has stored in the air around us to be a 24/7 solution, we have really created an evolutionary step for solar technology. The amount of energy that we're now able to deliver is significantly higher than any other solar solution that's available on the market. We can run in dual mode. We can gather thermal energy really 24/7, but in low light or nighttime conditions, we can also cool. We can provide air conditioning. And we're generating all the energy requirements. We're a hybrid solution that both generates the electricity, gathers the thermal energy needed to run through our heat pump with extra energy being supplied. It can be designed to meet the entire energy requirements of the individual customer. Really what we've introduced here is a total energy solution delivered by SunDrum Solar. So our mission of improving solar economics with cost-effective hybrid assemblies really doesn't end here. You know, with this evolution or evolutionary step in our industry, it's created a world of opportunities where we can go from. It's really surprising. But we are using that to both use efficiency, the amount of solar energy that can be collected in a square foot, and the amount of time you can access that energy during the day to maximize the energy per square foot that we're delivering to our customers. So I want to thank you for your time. If you wish to contact us for further information, you can contact us by email at sales@sundrumsolar.com or through the web at www.sundrumsolar.com. I look forward to future conversations and the future innovations that we're able to bring to the market.